It's starting to get spooky out there, guys, and the best way to stay safe is to get that Bronze Age horror knowledge. So stay tuned. Welcome back, Gainers, to another incredible, exciting, fantastic episode of ComicGains! And if you're new to the show, I'm Adam.
I'm Zach, and this is Princess Royal. Hands looking very lovely today, just like usual, doing that princess way. You do too. Bow and respect, and of course, there's the Coco dog.
A spooky Coco.
Spooky.
Ooh. We're all ghosting out.
Mm-hmm.
No, we won't leave you guys. Because today is Monday, guys, and we have an extra special edition of ComicGains, the spooky drop list.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of. Yeah. So, we got a fun show. We thought we would showcase some Bronze Age horror books, and that's a hard word to say sometimes, but we could do it, right? We can make it through the whole show.
Yes, and
horror.
There might be one exception to the Bronze Age, but we have to have.
Oh yeah,
we have to add it.
We had to. But as you guys know, the ComicGains group gets together once a month, and we showcase books that were hot a year ago, and where are they now? Where are they not? And sometimes we make some exceptions for the rule, and this month in particular, in honor of All Hallows Eve, we wanted to talk about the scary side of comic books, and what better way to do that than Bronze Age horror. So we're going to drop some knowledge. We have 6 books this month in particular, not in really any order. We just want to talk about them and let you know if any of these are a good price to pick up. That's kind of the deal. We let you know what the price was, what the price is now, and then the slab master, who we sometimes call Zach, is let you know if they're good deals, right?
Yes.
That's what we do around here. What else do we do before the show kicks off?
Well, we drink a unusual beverage, and this one is very unusual. This is a Pepsi.
You gotta do it like that.
Pepsi.
That way.
Tangerine?
Is that a tangerine?
Yeah, it looks strange.
That looks like a lime.
It's a Pepsi something. Let's see if I can tell by the taste. I'm trying to think, what does tangerine taste like?
An orange? A really sweet orange?
That does not taste like a sweet orange. What is
it lime? It looks like a lime on there.
It might be a lime. What do you think? Comment down below. Does that look like a lime to you?
Or a tangerine.
Or a lemon. Oh, lemon.
Lemon? Could be a lemon. It's like a green lemon. Which is known as a lime. Not just kidding. An unripe lemon. All right, guys. Just to let you know, there's a place you can find very ripe lemons. Us on Whatnot, we have a special show this weekend. We're both going to be on. Adam and Zach will kick things off at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Come hang out with us. 30-second auctions, dollar starts, and the Princess will be on. The main event after our show, it's sometimes 5, sometimes 6, depending on how long we go. But if you get there early on our show, you can get a spot in the polls, which is what everyone's talking about these days on Whatnot. So
I'll let you know when they go live.
Come hang out with us. All right. It's almost Halloween, guys, and we got to get ready. It's really close. So the drop list of Halloween this year and Bronze Age horror. So first book on the list, we have Marvel Spotlight issue number 2. I've never owned this book before. Have you ever had this book?
Nope, not even one.
You should find it. 1972, this book came out by Neil Adams cover, and Jerry Conway did the writing for this one. And it's a cool series, Marvel Spotlight. I'm a big fan of this series. When Stan Lee changed from head editor to president of Marvel Comics, he decided to introduce a couple of new lines. And one of them was Marvel Spotlight. He also did Marvel Feature and Marvel Premiere. And he thought this was a good way to showcase new characters in a less financial way. You don't have to put a bunch of money out for a brand new book series. You can just put a few characters in and see if they do good, and if they flop, you just cut them off and move on to the next character. Well, it did really well. A bunch of new characters came out of this, and particularly in issue number 2 is the first appearance and origin of Werewolf by Night, also known as Jack Russell, which is a pretty cool name for a dog-type character. The Jack Russell Terrier. I wonder if there's any connection there. I feel like there should be, right?
There might be.
There is an origin story to Jack Russell in this book, and if you want to know more about him, it's pretty cool. He's directly connected to Dracula. So his ancient ancestor, who's named Gregory, I think it's like Russeloff or something like that in Eastern Europe.
Gregory.
He like goes up against Dracula, and he kind of kills him, but Dracula never really dies. You know how that goes. And during the battle, ends up turning into a werewolf because of like the situations with magic and whatnot. And he defeats Dracula, but later on, after he dies, he has children who don't become werewolves, which is kind of strange.
Okay.
I thought they would have like passed on. Well, his son is called Gregor. He has a son named Gregor, and in the story, he's directly connected to the Darkhold. So he gets a hold of the Darkhold scrolls, which is like how the Darkhold was originally written, and he copies it into a book form. So like there's two versions of the Darkhold, one's in scrolls, and then there's a copy in the book form. Well, in the scrolls, they have the spell for lycanthropy, which turns you into a werewolf.
Yeah.
And when he does the whole like werewolf thing and turns himself into a werewolf, that's how it kind of gets passed on, and they get the curse that eventually goes to Jack Russell. It's really cool how you don't feel like he's super intertwined with the other Marvel characters, but he is. And Gregor, not Gregory, his father, he actually sold some of his properties off, which is like the Wundagore Mountains. And in the Wundagore Mountains is purchased by Jonathan Drew, who's Jessica Drew's father, and Herbert Wyndham, who is also known as the High Evolutionary. So they're all like intertwined and connected to the origin of Werewolf by Night, which is pretty cool. And eventually he gets the curse of the werewolf, and you kind of know how that goes. You know, he just kind of like has to deal with turning into a werewolf, killing people, but also trying to be like a good guy at the same time, which I think is really cool and interesting. Fun thing, you know, MCU, we got to see him in Werewolf by Night, the Halloween special. I thought that was a good show. Good. I feel like it's something I would like to watch maybe once a year on Halloween. It's not too long. I don't think it was like overly eventful for like the MCU like overall universe, but it's a fun little like throwback to like a black and white type Halloween show. And Gael Garcia Bernal played him in the show, which is really cool. He's also the voice of one of the characters in the Coco movie, and they use like the same face paint for him as well. Where this character goes, I think of a lot of the books on our list, I think this book may have the most potential for growth because everyone liked that Werewolf by Night, and having seen like Man-Thing, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see him again. Zach may have better numbers on this though.
Yeah. So this is a really, really cool book. Great cover. And it does have a lot of potential. They're very hard to find in a high grade. The highest grade I could find with multiple sales was a 9.2. And I'll tell you the numbers right now. So, price a year ago was $1,238. Now, you have to pay about $1,400. Kind of got a little closer to the Halloween, so the price probably spiked a little bit.
Oh, that Halloween spike.
It's been as low as $1,038 and as high as $1,400. Average sales $1,260. It's the only book on the list that went up in price. So that tells you that might be an indicator that went up 13%. Might be an indicator that this book, sky's the limit. It could be any crazy sales. There is no 9.8 recorded in history of being sold, but there are 9.8s.
Oh, okay.
There's been 2 9.6s sold. Well, there's been multiple 9.6s, but over a period of year, 9.6s both sold on Heritage. And 2022, it was selling for $12,000.
Whoa!
But this is the strange thing. 2023, just a year later, it's down to $6,600. So I think this is like
somebody overpaid.
Someone overpaid during one of the heights of the markets. But this kind of tells me that this book has a lot of potential legs, and it's a low investment relatively to the grade. There's 2,362 total graded. 2 of them are 9.8s. 2 of them. And there's 30 9.6s. So both of them are very, very hard to find in the wild. Not in the wild, but to get a high grade and to actually find them sold aftermarket. So when they come up, they command, who knows, depending on the time of the year. Like right now would be a perfect time to sell it. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic book. I want to see a few 9.8 sells, but I don't think those people that own the 9.8s are ever going to sell it until they die.
Like what, $30,000 book?
Or more.
Or more.
Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, this is a fantastic investment book. Great cover. Great everything. I would consider it, yes.
Cool, cool. And as Princess would tell you, The Werewolf by Night issue number 1 is also a good book as well, which is cool when that happens because it's not even really like a first appearance. It's just his first solo. But that's a fairly expensive book in its own right, which is pretty cool.
Great cover.
Yeah, great cover. All right, let's swing over to a different publisher. And this is a book I think we have talked about before on the show. We've got House of Secrets 92. That's a good number, right? 1971. And this is Bernie Wrightson cover, and it's written by Jerry Conway and Lean Wayne, which I think Lean Wayne probably ended up writing more of the series as it went on. He took over, I think, the regular series. And this is first appearance of the Swamp Thing. And this Swamp Thing's name is Alex Olson. So keep that in mind. Alex Olson, this was a standalone horror story that took place. So House of Secrets is kind of like a bunch of broken up small stories. And this issue in particular, they decide to write about this character that they invented named Swamp Thing. And it's a pretty cool basic story where Alex Olson is he's like a scientist, and he has his assistant Damien, which already sounds like a bad thing if your assistant's name is Damien. And Alex is married to his wife Linda. Damien decides he's got eyes for Linda, and the only way to get her is to get rid of Alex. So he kills him. While doing so, under their experiments, all like the chemicals and the goodies all fall on him. And after he dies, he's kind of like reconstituted into like the scary beast of Swamp Thing. And as Swamp Thing, he comes back and he's like, all right, Damien, kills Damien, and then goes to Linda and he's like, Linda, it's me. I'm Alex under here. And she's like, I don't know who you are. Get away from me. So it's like a tragic ending. Like he doesn't end up getting back Linda, and then he has to kill Damien in the process. And at that point, like Alex just becomes like a old wives' tale, or like a thing of someone that haunts the swamp.
A legend.
Yeah, legend, like haunting the swamp. And that's the end of the story. Like you never get Alex again. And then in Swamp Thing issue 1 is where they come up with the new character, Alec Holland, who is the ongoing Swamp Thing that we know and love over the years. It's been around like forever and ever and ever. So it's cool. It's kind of cool that you got to remember that there's 2 different Swamp Things. It's kind of weird as far as I know, they didn't really bring back the original one ever. They didn't like mess with that story, which is probably a good thing. Where is this character going? Well, for some reason, and I like Swamp Thing, so I'm not saying like for some reason, I don't know why, but for some reason, everybody likes this character and they want to see him in a lot of stuff because he's been in movies for a long time. They made a movie back in 1982. They made another movie in 1989, which led into a TV show in 1990, which I think all played by an actor named Dick Durick, was like the guy who played him that character. And then they later made a TV show in 2019, which I heard was actually really good, but too expensive to make, so it got canceled. I haven't really seen any of these. I probably should. They all sound exciting, but James Gunn's already said, like, everybody loves Swamp Thing. We need more Swamp Thing in our life. So for sure, we're going to see this dude show up again. And it's a highly respected comic and hard to find. So, yeah, this may also be a really good investment, too. What does Zach think, though? Oh, yeah. He's the one that's the investment guy.
Oh, yeah. So it's very hard to find a high grade of consistent sales besides, the 8.5. The 8.5 was very steady seller at a certain price. It doesn't really go, down or much up, but steady.
Steady Eddie.
So I took the 8.0 because that one gave me a lot more options for the sales. There's 11 sales in the 8.0. There's one oddball sale in November that was almost like double of the low or the new. So I took that out. That was just so overpaid. Yeah, someone just overpaid. So price a year ago, you could get one for $3,200 for 8.0. Now you can get one for $2,400.
Whoa.
Range is $2,400, $3,200. Average sale is $2,800. It's a 25% drop. There has been 9.8 sales. There's one actually this year. Interesting. There was a big sale for Heritage around January of this year. And it sold for a 9.8 $84,000.
Ooh.
And that was on Heritage.
It's a good way to spend almost $100,000.
Yeah, if you have money to throw around, why not? There's 3,658 total graded. Surprising that I would think there would have been more for this book.
Yeah.
This book's probably sent out all the time, or you would think there would be. There's 3 9.8s, only 3, less than 1%. You're not going to see this up for sale all the time. I think there's actually been like 2 or 3 sales of a 9.8, which is insane. If I got this in a 9.8, it would never leave my collection, unless someone offered me $1 million, and I'll be like,
what about 100,000?
No.
All right.
Yeah, this book is just going to go up and up. I remember in 2015 or 16, you could get a 5.0 for a couple $100. It was actually pretty reasonable. 800, you get a 8.0, 9.0 kind of thing, and it was like, whoa, pretty nice. And well, actually, yeah, you can even get a higher grade for that. And then it just started skyrocketing. It never stopped going down. It never stopped going up. It just every single year it's been going up and up and up.
Yeah,
it sounds like a song, but
about Swamp Thing.
Yes. This book is fantastic. I would say this is one of the best books on this. There are others that are really good too.
Yeah,
and we'll get to that. But yeah, get this book.
Get your Swamp Thing
for sure.
Yeah, definitely a really exciting book, and one of those things. It's like, back in the day there wasn't that many DC books that had a lot of value, but Batman and Swamp Thing are always tried and true for some reason. I don't know why. But all right, let's go back over. We need more horror in our life, and the best way to do that is to get bit on the neck. So we need Tomb of Dracula, #1. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about the Tomb, guys. 1972. We're all kind of staying in this little time range right here. Neil Adams and Jerry Conway again. Interesting.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. We have a nice facsimile here. It's a good way to show you the cover of that book. I wish we had a copy of this. That'd be exciting. Definitely on my list of things to get. And if you're wondering, this is the first appearance of Dracula. And there's also Van Helsing and Frank Drake are also first appeared in this story as well. And this is a cool thing. This Dracula was actually inspired by Bram Stoker's Dracula. And the reason Marvel was able to do that, what they wanted, the reason why they decided to go that way is at the time this book came out, Bram Stoker's Dracula was very popular. Most average people at least know that name. If you're going to go with a vampire and somebody says Dracula, you're like, oh yeah, I know Dracula. I know about that guy. And what's better than that? It was already a public domain. So all the characters were up for grabs. So anybody could use them. So it's like a perfect storm, which is kind of one of those strange things where you think about like Thor and things like that, where it's like, oh, like anybody can use this. It's just who writes the best story about it. So the other reason this came out was right around this time, the Comics Code Authority started to lax up a little bit, and Marvel was trying to like test the water for things. And the first thing they did was introduce Morbius into the Spider-Man comics, and they were like, we really want to use vampires, so let's use like this kind of like fake vampire, and everything seemed to go smooth with that. So they were just like, next step was let's just go straight vampire, and let's just jump right into Dracula himself. And he basically has, a pretty standard origin story. And when they first wrote him, it was a little dicey starting out. I think they had 3 or 4 different writers right off the bat. They were just told these like basic stories that like didn't really go anywhere. And until Marv Wolfman took over, did it really get into its own, and they were able to create some better stuff. He's always been like the bad guy. So if you read these stories, he's most of the time the antagonist, not the protagonist, but sometimes he is, depending on who they're fighting against. Every once in a while, he's sort of the good guy. MCU spec, this is a tough one. In my personal opinion, I don't see them using Dracula. Maybe it's, there's so many vampire movies and TV shows and everything out there that's used Dracula in every which way possible that I just don't know if the MCU would be worried if they did it, if they could do it better. It's like when we got the Blade movie, they didn't touch on Dracula at all, and they're much more connected than the other movies, than the Blade movies ever showed, and we never got to see him even once, which makes me feel like in the MCU they might not use him at all,
Right.
It's like, that's what my gut tells me. Like, I think this book is really important to the comic book community because it's a Neil Adams cover and Dracula is just cool as hell. But movie-wise and TV show, I find it hard to believe that they would use him in any. I don't know. That might be just me. Maybe Zach has a different opinion on it. But
they used him like briefly in the Blade 3 movie. It was horrible though.
No, that's the Blood God. He wasn't Dracula.
Oh, that wasn't Dracula?
No, he was.
That was.
Nope, he was the god of vampires or something like that, or like the first. They never called him Dracula. I don't think so.
Well, maybe you're right. I might have to rewatch that crappy movie.
I'm pretty sure it was a Dracula. Crap. I might be wrong. I mean, there's like plenty of movies out there that have Dracula in it, but
that's true.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff though. Frank Drake is also a pretty exciting character. He's the only living descendant of Dracula, and he's a good guy-ish. I mean, he's a good guy. Like, he doesn't like vampires, so he's a cool vampire hunter that they use, and he progresses along the story quite a lot and becomes friends with like Blade and Hannibal King later on.
Oh, okay.
They form the Night Stalkers together. A little team you may have heard of, but it's also, it's a kind of a double key because he's an important character as well. More importantly, is it a good investment? Because a lot of people tell you, I know back in the day there was hardly any 9/8s, and now there's a lot of 9/8s. And I think the book significantly dropped in price.
Yeah. So interesting. I actually was able to get enough sales in the 9.8. So these are 9.8 prices. 3 sales, nothing crazy. Got a range of a year ago, 4,800 to now 4,320. So it dropped a little bit. And same thing vice versa. Average sales 4,560. It's about a 10% drop. The highest sale, funny enough, was on Heritage. In 2021,
Was it 10,000?
16,800. Yeah, someone lost their shirt. You can have mine. So there's a total of 3,819 total graded. Kind of surprising for this book. 85 of them are 9.8. Even more surprising. 2%. It's actually surprising. Wow. You can get this book in a 9.8 pretty easily. Mm-hmm. Like, it's almost like people bought this book just to look at it and never read it. Yeah, so that's what it seems. I mean, it's a cool book. Fantastic Key. If you collect Tomb of Dracula, obviously this is a book you gotta check off your list. Price-wise, it's not that bad. I don't know, like Adam said, I don't know how many legs it has. Probably just one, not a centipede for sure. Maybe 2 legs at the most. But it's a great Bronze Age key. And, there's other books on this list I'd rather go after. To be honest. But not a bad book at all. Mm-hmm. It's on my list, but it's way down on my list. Way down. Way down.
Yeah, cool book though. All right, next book on the list. This is the only Silver Age book I think we have. Yeah, it is definitely Silver Age, but it's right at the end of the Silver Age. And we wanted to talk about, because you have like a lot of Marvel, little bit of DC, and we needed a third one to put in. So let's talk about Vampirella, the very sexy issue number 1, 1969. So technically Silver Age magazine cover. Frank Frazetta and Forrest J. Ackerman did this one. Would you put this in your top 10 best covers of all time?
It's very high up there.
It's
probably, I would say it's probably in the top 10. It's amazing.
Beautiful book. Beautiful book. It is a magazine, guys, so that's why it's a little bit larger. And it is the first appearance of Vampirella and the planet known as Draculon. And it has some sister magazines that came out with it at the same time. Creepy and Eerie. Cool. Keep some cool sister magazines. These were black and white stories. And they did these magazines so they could kind of scoot around the Comics Code Authority and make some really dark, dirty, bloody, black and white bloody magazines type stuff with some cool things. And I always knew like Vampirella as like the sexy lady covers that people look at, and I didn't even really know her story that well. And the fact that she's not even from Earth, she's from Draculon, which is like another planet where supposedly the blood flows like water, and they have like big rivers and lakes, I don't know if any of them are oceans, of blood, and all the vampires there can like drink up the blood and everything's chill. Well, there's a binary star that kind of roams around their planet and it causes massive droughts. You know, the gravity pulls like the liquid away or whatever, how that works. And then they don't have anything to drink. And in the storyline, like, I think a human pilot crash lands on Draculon, and Vampirella's like, oh, you know, maybe I can save my people by finding another planet to go get the goodies, the blood goodies. So she goes back to Earth with the pilot, and it's kind of cool. I guess she is more of a hero type character. I thought maybe she just like sucked a bunch of dudes' blood and it was like sort of a bad guy-ish. But no, she hunts down the descendants of Dracula. We got Dracula again on Earth, because Dracula in this storyline is actually from her planet as well, that he came over to Earth centuries before her and like had a bunch of children and created the vampire race on Earth, and she took it upon herself to like kill them off, you know, get rid of Dracula's descendants. So that's kind of what she does, is like fight them off for humans, I guess, and then once in a while she partakes in a little blood sucking. I'm supposed, maybe the willing. I don't know. I haven't read enough Vampirella to know the deets of the story, but the magazine's pretty awesome. I think it goes all the way till 1983 is when they did the final issue of it, and there's a bunch of great covers throughout. Definitely check them out. It then later gets picked up by Harris Comics, which is written by the great Kurt Busiek, who's a really big comic fan as well as good writer. And I think Harris did a good job for a while with their stuff as well. People really enjoyed it. I don't know as much if the comics now have the best writing. I'm not going to say they do or don't because I haven't really read them. I feel like a lot of people buy them more for the covers, maybe less than what's on the inside. But it would be cool if something ever happened with Vampirella. I think her story is a little crazy, though, that like it would be hard to make a movie or TV show on it since she's like a sexy vampire alien, which sounds a little like hard to pitch that to a movie studio. You never know. I don't know. I feel like that's maybe why we haven't seen anything. I mean, I'm sure there's something that's come out, like a cartoon or a low-budget Vampirella movie. I'm pretty sure there is, right? It's got to be.
I can't remember. I know there's a cartoon Lady Death movie.
Yeah, but you always talk about that.
Right, it's a good movie.
But we'll see. Obviously, I think anything that's a Frank Frazetta cover trumps movie or spec knowledge. So at that point, like, who cares? Like, just awesome book. That's like, you know, it's kind of one of those like legend books, you know, where like it's just always going to be awesome depending on like what happens. So is it the right? Just got to find if it's the right time to buy it. Maybe if it's a full moon, you get a better deal. Or if it's more expensive, I don't know.
Well, we got 5 sales in 8.5. A year ago, you could pick one up for $1,950. Now you can pick it up for a cool $1,800 or $1,799, rounding up. Range is 1,705 to as high as 2,000. Average sales 1,865. That's only a 7% drop. Not bad. Not too bad. Again, Heritage strikes with the highest grade, 9.8. Sold just like I said in January. Same sale, same time period as that other book I talked about, for $78,000 for a 9.8. I'm surprised it didn't go for more.
Yeah,
to be honest. I mean, you got, House of Secrets versus Vampirella #1. I mean...
What would you rather have in a 9.8? Don't even think about it. Go.
Okay, yeah, it would be House of Secrets.
You'd rather have House of Secrets than 9.8 or Vampirella?
It's a great cover.
All right.
It's a great cover. I mean...
Princess would probably have the Vampirella, I think.
It's a great cover. I mean, I've been after House of Secrets for the longest time, and then immediately I get Vampirella afterwards. Okay, there's crazy. This is crazy. There's only 1,150 graded.
Whoa.
2 of them are 9.8s. 2. Less than 1%.
And the guy sold his.
And the guy sold his. I mean, that must
or woman.
Or
woman. Person sold it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like one of those books that if you got it at 9.8, don't ever sell it because it's only going to go up in price.
That's a good investment book. And the crazy thing too is it's a magazine, guys. So like there was not very many comic book boxes back then that held those, you know, like, or people didn't know how to store them as easily. So we found people that have found them at half price books, which is crazy. So keep an eye out for those. Why? All right, next up on the list, let's scoot back over to Marvel and talk about one of my favorite characters of all times, Werewolf by Night, issue number 32, guys. And y'all should know this by now. 1975, Doug Moench and Don Pearl, as well as Gil Kane, did the cover. So Don Pearl did the interiors. Awesome cover, though. Really, really cool. Moon Knight looked a lot different back in the day when he first started. And this is the first appearance and origin of Moon Knight, alter ego Mark Spector. And, yeah, I mean, he does have a couple other alter egos as well, right? Jake Lockley and Stephen Grant. He's a really exciting character because he started out in a Werewolf by Night book, and they're kind of like testing him out. I think I don't know if they decided he was going to be a good guy afterwards, but he starts out as kind of a villain. He gets hired by a company called the Committee to capture and obtain Werewolf by Night, which he does successfully. And then later on decides, that the Committee was evil, or he was, I think they retcon it that he was like planning that the whole time. And he releases Werewolf by Night, and then they do their thing. And people liked him so much that they give him his own book, Moon Knight #1. And, the story where like, it's very similar to the TV show where he's teamed up with like Bushman and Frenchie, and they go on this mission together, and they're mercenaries. And when they go on it, Bushman ends up being too nasty and kills like a scientist guy. And he's like, whoa, went a little too overboard. And then he ends up basically getting killed by Bushman. And during that time, he sells his soul to Khonshu and comes back to life. And he's had sort of a checkered past over the years. Like, so many people write him differently. Is he crazy? Is he not crazy? Is Khonshu real? Is Khonshu not real? We're kind of the point now where Khonshu is real and Moon Knight's sort of like immortal. But I feel like he's been written a lot better over the past like 4 or 5 years compared to what he was in like the 90s when it was pretty bad and people didn't know what to do with him. But yeah, an exciting character. We got to see him in the MCU. I actually think the TV show was really, really good. Oscar Isaac did a good job. They completely twisted the whole thing around, which I'm totally fine with, by making Mr. Knight like the alter ego of Stephen Grant instead of like being like a different alter ego. It just depends on like who he was when he turned into it, which was totally awesome. I've heard some rumors that Oscar Isaac like didn't want to reprise the role, but you never know if that's just like a thing to like, throw people off a little bit. I think of a lot of the TV shows, this was one of the more successful ones, so hopefully we get to see it again, or if we just get to see him like in some sort of Marvel horror movie, which I'd be down for too.
That'd be cool.
Definitely taking a big hit though after the talk of there not being renewed for another TV show. So this might be the time to get this book, because at one time it was very, very expensive for a Bronze Age book.
Yeah.
It's one of the trifecta, right? One of the 3 or 4 major Bronze Age keys, or used to be.
It's definitely on a list for sure, and it's a good list. But Hulk 181. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hulk 181, Marvel Spotlight 5, and Giant Size X-Men, right?
Yeah, but fantastic.
This would be the 4th book.
Yes. Okay, so we got 8 sales and a 9.4. Pretty reasonable. So a year ago you could get one for $3,700. Now you can get one for $3,200. Range is 3,120 to as high as 4,495. Average sale is 3,657. So you can see that it had a little bit of volatility, a lot. It's down 13% from a year ago. Highest confirmed sale was in 2022 for 9.8, 70,500.
Ooh, oh.
Now there's a confirmed sale on Heritage. Oh yeah, that last place was Comic Connect. I don't know who buys stuff on Comic Connect. Please tell me. Tell me down below if you bought anything on Comic Connect, because I have
Princess
not.
Does.
What?
Yeah.
You never told me.
She can't talk.
So we have a recent sale in April of this year on Heritage. 9.8, 26,400.
Whoa! Somebody overpaid.
It dropped by over half.
Dang.
It's almost like a third in price.
That seems more reasonable price though for that book. I don't know if I would pay
Almost.
$70,000 for it.
To a third. It was crazy. There's understandably a lot graded. 5,886 total graded. 22 of them are 9.8s. That's less than 1%, but just 22 9.8s. Crazy for this book. I mean, this is a fantastic character. It was not on the radar for people like me when I first started collecting it was before 2008, but it was not on the radar. It was kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy kind of situation where I just didn't really know that those characters. Now a lot of people know this character. A lot of people like this character. I mean, in 30 years, this probably will be considered one of the Bronze Age big grails, right along with Giant Size X-Men #1, Hulk 181, and whatever books. I mean, you could even say House of Secrets 92. Just saying. Yeah, it's a great time to buy this book. I mean, it could go down a little bit more. It could, but it also could go up a lot. So, if you find one out in the wild for a good deal, why not? If you've got the cash, buy it.
Yeah, great book.
Fantastic.
Great book. All right, and our last book on the list. We need to get those fangs out again because we're looking back on Tomb of Dracula, issue number 10. We had to talk about this book. It's, this is the Halloween of Halloween. I don't know if it's the Halloween of Halloween.
It's a controversial one. Right
1973, this book came out. Marv Wolfman, Gil Kane. That's when things started to get real good in the Tomb of Dracula books. Obviously, Blade shows up. This is his first appearance of Blade. Real name Eric Brooks, although they don't use it that often. That's his real name. And his origin story, it's kind of similar to the movie, except some pretty major differences. So he's actually born in London, England, which he's British and has a pretty strong British accent. But it is the same thing where, like, his mom was bit by a vampire while she was pregnant with him, and then he was born and came out and had to live his life doing his thing. The other major difference with this character that you may not know is that Blade didn't really have any powers. He doesn't have any powers when he shows up. He becomes a vampire hunter in this book, and he goes against Dracula, and while fighting Dracula and he gets bit by him, he learns that he is immune to vampirism, and that is his only power. He just can't be turned into a vampire by being bit, which a lot of people think of the whole, like, he has like super strength and he has all the vampire strengths but none of their weaknesses. That doesn't happen in the comics until much, much later. So he meets up, with some characters like Quincy Harker, Frank Drake, and Rachel Van Helsing, and they like fight a bunch of vampires together. Nice. And they do a bunch of cool stuff, and he has like some own solo things that he does. But not until much later when he fights Morbius, and good old Morbius bites him on the neck, and he's like, "Ha! I'm immune to vampires." Well, Morbius ain't really a vampire. So when his enzymes mix with Blade's blood, then he becomes the Daywalker, and he gets his strength and magical powers from being bitten by Morbius, which is kind of cool. That's like how that really all comes about. Most of us know him from the Blade movies, Wesley Snipes. I like all three of them. I think the first one's probably my favorite, though, by far. And they did some really cool stuff. You get to see like Deacon Frost in the first movie, which really happens. That is the guy that turns him by biting his mom, and I think they did a really good job with that. This book, however, like Zach said, has a lot of controversy because we were like guaranteed to get a new Blade movie played by Mahershala Ali, which everyone was really excited for because we have like an A-class actor that wasn't gonna, and he turned down a whole bunch of stuff. Like when they showed him the scripts, he's like, no, new script, new director, and we were like, all right, he wants a really good movie. He's gonna take nothing but the best. And apparently there is nothing because everything got shut down, and they have officially taken it off the list of movies that are going to happen. So as of right now, there is no Blade movie coming out, even though he was in like the end credit scenes voice of the Eternals movie, which, so we'll see. I think forever this will be an awesome book. And, a lot of the books we've been talking about are pretty major keys. So they will be slightly affected by movie and TV news, but over time, I think they'll correct themselves to their proper price. You know what I mean? And great cover, but we'll have to see, where this book goes down the line. I think Blade's pretty amazing. So, yeah.
It was Bags of Blood a year ago for 9.83 sales. Buy one for $28,800. Pretty cheap.
9.8?
9.8.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you can buy one for $15,860. Yeah, it dropped quite a bit. Range 15,860 to 28,800. Average sales 21,287. It's a 45% drop. There is a 9.9, and it was sold in 2005.
Wow.
For $4,370.
Oh man, I feel bad for that guy. That could have been a really expensive book.
That could have been really expensive. There's 5,182, probably one of the largest besides The Werewolf by Night, graded I've seen on this list. It's massive. Everybody graded it. There's only one 9.9. Only one. They sold one of one. And there's 64, surprisingly, 9.8. So that's a 1.25% total graded. Fantastic book. It has taken a big hit and it's going to continue taking a hit. But then this is a book that everybody had it on their radar for the longest time. This is one of those, not Copper Age, Bronze Age keys that is in that list. It's not the Grail, but it is somebody's Grail.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great book. I've always wanted this book, and the prices are getting very, very reasonable for the grade I want to get.
Ooh, nice.
It's not a 9.8. I don't. That's still unreasonable for me. I can't pay $15,000 for a 9.8. Forget that. But
sell your soul.
Yeah.
To Dracula.
To Dracula. Here's a 9.8.
Here you go.
Fair exchange.
Yeah, if you're gonna compare this book to like Moon Knight's first appearance, I think like right now, like in current comic books, like Moon Knight's being written really well, and everybody's really celebrating his stories. The Blade stuff is good, and they're trying to push it. Like Blood Hunt was definitely about Blade, but I don't know if he's had very many good solo stories written about him lately, and they've really gone the other way. Like now he's basically Wesley Snipes and less of the original one, and I don't know if they need to get back to their roots and tell a good him and Dracula story together, or maybe they've just told too many, but I hope they come up with a really good Blade story. Like I said, Blood Hunt was cool, really cool, but I don't know if it was like overall Blade story.
I think it should be a part of a team.
Bring back the Night Stalkers. Bring it back! All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the show for today. Want to wish everybody a safe and happy Halloween. As always, subscribe. Hit the like button for the princess right now. Stop what you're doing. She loves it when you do that. Leave a comment down below. Let us know what your favorite Bronze Age horror book is. And, Zach, you got anything else?
Yeah, sure. How you do this? You go to your regular Home Depot, get a bunch of duct tape, a bunch of rope, maybe a couple axes, some tarps, and let me think.
And
what else? Oh yeah, you gotta get some gloves, because you know what I'm talking about. And get those gains.
Go vampire hunting?
Yes.
Carve some steaks?
Exactly.
All right, guys. Until we see you next time, stay safe and remember,
get those gains.